What's going on, people? Welcome back to Curtis Shaw TV, back with another live stream. Happy Tuesday, people. The Tuesday after the weekend before. And that game against Brighton seems like a million years ago now. It feels like we were never in the title race. But hey, it is what it is, people. We are where we are. Nicholas Anelka's in the background. Rebellious mode, people. You know what time it is. Big up to everyone tuned in. Hope you're well. Thank you for tuning in on this Tuesday. Champions League Tuesday, a Champions League that, you know, we'll be competing in next season. But how well are we going to be doing in that Champions League is the question. Thank you to everyone who tuned in yesterday for inverted Arsenal therapy. We dealt with a lot of our issues in there. I did forget to do the press conference reaction, but you know what? I was full already. I didn't want to hear the waffle. So we left it alone, people. But big up to everyone tuned in. Hope you're well. Like the video, subscribe. We're nearly at 62k. I think we need about 30 odd more subs, and then we'll be there. And yeah, someone going to say my favourite Arsenal kit. Morning all. That was a classic. You know what? I never had that kit. The JVC yellow one. I never had that one, to be fair. But I've always said, and I know I always waffle on about it myself, but Anelka is genuinely one of my favourite ever Arsenal players. I remember the first time I watched him at Highbury. He's one of the quickest players I've ever seen. He actually looked quicker than Thierry Henry. I think Henry had just bigger strides. He was a little bit more, you know, regal the way he ran. But Anelka was busy, man. What a player. Watch his documentary if you haven't watched it. Le Souk. Great documentary. Anyway, people, let's look ahead. We can't deal with what's gone off, unfortunately. We can only deal with what's in front of us. And we know what time it is. It's war chest season. It's PR season, people. You know what time it is. Ornstein's going to throw reports out there left, right and centre about how much money we're going to spend this summer. We're going to be linked with Declan Rice about 40 more times before he eventually signs for Chelsea. No, he might sign for us. I don't know, but you know, we're going to be linked with him for the next few weeks and months. And then we'll see what we're about, people. Now, we've seen some... there's some big news out today that we're going to speak about a little bit later on in the show regarding the Champions League, people. And it may not be good news for Arsenal, but make sure you stay tuned in. Tayab said, big up Big C, been here since 4K, fresh trim settings. Big up yourself, bro. Appreciate that. I'm laughing straight to the bank with this. Ha 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 ha. 50 cent settings, my big tune. Big up Fitz. Hope you're well, bro. Check the PR. It's season ticket renewal time. Listen, I remember all them years ago. Luis Suarez is signing for Arsenal. 40 million and a pound. We've triggered the release clause. Renew your season tickets. We're going to win the league next year. And we all know how that one worked out. So yeah, when the season tickets are up for renewal, the war chest stories start to come out, and there's been emails over the last few days about renewing the season ticket. I think it's gone up by about 4%, 5% because of the Champions League. But hey, man. Nathan said the media puppets are on overtime the next few months. Yeah, they'll spend the next 2 months about, you know, how this was an unbelievable success this season. You know, if they owned it as a football club and the presenters and all, everyone, if they just owned it and said, you know what, we improved massively, we've made progress, but ultimately we threw away the title and we have to find a way to fix it. I think we could all just deal with that. We go, you know what, at least the club are acknowledging what the situation is. They know it was good, but we failed at the end. We have to improve. But all the smoke and mirrors and the PR is what makes it worse for me, you know. But hey, it is what it is. We also had a verbal agreement with Mudryk. Look how that turned out. Exactly. The war chest that we never spent. We've been looking for this war chest for about 15 years and we still haven't found it. Phase 4, don't bottle the league away again. Exactly. Keep manifesting the name Rafa Leao. I think he's on the verge of signing a new deal. Put Fabio Vieira in the background as a wake-up call. I just can't do it. I wish I could. Listen, I'm in NBA season. I'm wearing my NBA t-shirt. Got my Lakers jersey upstairs. LeBron James settings. Enjoying the playoffs. I've switched off now from Arsenal. I'm going to be on. I'll do the watch-along on Saturday against Nottingham Forest, my hometown club. I hope Forest actually stay up. But, you know, I've switched off. I'm in holiday zone now. I'm on airplane mode on the phone. You know, the signal ain't too good right now. So, yeah, a lot of these will be transfer rumours and things like that, people. So, yeah, we'll see anyway. We will see. Would you go back in for Mudryk? Nah, I wouldn't. I do like Miami Heat as well, but you know LeBron that's my guy, man. That's my favorite basketballer. To be fair, I'm all in with the Celtics. Yeah, Tatum, baller. We might have to do basketball streams. But anyway, let's move on. Let's talk. It's going to be transfers. Most of today's show is going to be transfers. The second story will be the Champions League story. So make sure you stay locked in. We're 30 subscribers away from 62k. So if you haven't already, click on that button. First story of the day. Arsenal are being linked with a move for this man, Javi Simmons. Very, very talented player. He absolutely bossed us for PSV in the away leg. Earlier on this season in the Europa League. Top young player. Just turned 20 years of age. Dutch international. Came through at PSG and took the move to PSV, and he's being linked with a potential move to Arsenal. He plays in the attacking midfield role as like a support striker. At times has also played up front. He scored 16 league goals this season in 32 games with 8 assists. Now, I personally think he is a top young player. I've always rated him one. I've seen him as a youngster, and I think he's really talented. Now, as I said, I think we need to sign established top players. But also, the club are going to still try and sign youngsters as well to go along with it. As long as we do our main business, I would happily take him as well. You know, if we got the striker or the right winger and the centre midfielder, and then you went and added somebody like this to the equation as well, I would very much have no problem with this move. He's a better player than Fabio Vieira, that is for sure. 16 goals in an attacking midfield role this season with 8 assists at the age of 20 years of age. He's a baller. He's an absolute baller. He went to the World Cup with Holland, and he was fantastic. He ripped us apart. Now, it's believed that PSV will want a decent amount of money for him. He has a clause in his contract that enables him to rejoin PSG this summer for £25 million. But it's believed PSG are not going to go for him. If they were to sell him to a team outside of PSG, it's believed they would want around 35 to 40 million pounds to sell him. So would you pay 35 to 40 million pounds for him? We paid 35 for Fabio Vieira. He earns £28,000 a week. They paid 12 million euros for him. Listen, I would take him. I think he's an absolute baller. Kaz said, I'm a PSV fan. He's good. He's our best player. And again, yeah, if you're looking for an attacking midfielder, you know, he'd be a very good option. I personally think he would be a fantastic signing. Ruud van Nistelrooy is the PSV manager. And we all know about Martin Keown giving him the forearm smash over the back of his head. So would Van Nistelrooy actually sell him to Arsenal would be the interesting part of it. Like I said, for me, I think that he will. I'd be shocked if PSG didn't take him, but the story says they're not going to take him, which wouldn't make no sense to me. When you look at their team, they're not exactly having great times. Surely you would buy him back for 25 million. But yeah, I think he's a top young player. And personally, if Arsenal could get him, I would take him, and especially at 35, 40 million. I think he's a top youngster, 20 years of age. Big fan of him. Georgie said, hey, Don Curtis, big up yourself. Leicester in big trouble. I can see you've got the championship badge up there. Let me put it this way. I would rather take him than Mason Mount. If you're paying 60 million for Mason Mount, I would rather pay 35 to 40 million for Javi Simmons. Someone Guna said he skint us up big time. I'd take him. Will we get him? I doubt it, knowing us. Listen, when they make sense, we won't do it. You know our Arsenal. If it makes sense, it won't happen. Team of the season in Eredivisie, baller. I think he's an absolute top quality youngster. And I would take, listen, even give them Fabio Vieira as part of the deal. I've got no problem. If Leicester go down, go get Maddison. I think he goes Newcastle or Tottenham. They seem to be both heavily in for him. So Javi Simmons, we're not even going to do a poll on that one. I think the majority of you would take him. Although Omid said he would get bullied in the Prem. I always think when you play in that attacking midfield role, if you're good enough, you don't have to be particularly strong to thrive in that role. Because we've seen over the years, David Silva's, Mesut Ozil's, very quite lightweight players, but that game intelligence enables them to play that role. If you don't move the ball quick enough, like Fabio Vieira's and that's where you struggle. After watching Leicester yesterday, I wouldn't take any of their players. Let me just say one thing about one particular Leicester player. I don't care if Youri Tielemans is a free transfer, right? I don't care if they even pay us a little bit to take Youri Tielemans. I'm saying this now in 4K, right? I don't want Youri Tielemans anywhere near the Emirates Stadium. The only way Youri Tielemans comes to Arsenal if he's doing a tour of the stadium. He is one of the slowest, most immobile centre midfielders that I have seen. He has stunk out the place this year. No wonder Leicester are getting relegated. He was shocking for Belgium. A lot of people use that excuse, yeah, but Leicester are terrible, so he's been terrible. Well, what happened when he went to play for Belgium with De Bruyne next to him? He is awful. I don't want nothing to do with Youri Tielemans. I don't care how cheap he is. I don't care if he's free. I don't care if they're paying us. I don't want nothing to do with him. He is mid-table fodder in the Prem. I don't want him anywhere near the Emirates. So leave that link alone. You imagine Jorginho, Xhaka, and Tielemans and Partey. No, I'm sorry. I'm not here for that. Keep him away from this club. I don't want nothing to do with Youri Tielemans. Would you take Kovacic from Chelsea? I do like Kovacic. Always rated him highly. But I just don't want Chelsea players. I've had enough. Rodgers ruined a fantastic squad. Made them all losers. What's happened to Tielemans? Standards have gone up, man. We were 8th talking about Tielemans. I don't want him. We love a free agent. Youri is a phase 4 player. I don't want nothing to do with it. Right, I want to talk about Champions League, people, and a story that was broken this morning that could be quite damaging for Arsenal. Now, Gary Jacob has put a report out this morning for the Times. He's quite a highly respected journalist, if there is such thing as a highly respected journalist. Now, he's put a story out this morning, and let me share the screen with you all. He's put a story out this morning that Arsenal are likely to be in pot number 3 for their seeding for the Champions League. Now, most of the stories were saying that Arsenal would be in pot number 2 because we've been in the Europa League and the coefficient points. But because we've been out of the Champions League for 6 years, the coefficient points for the Europa League are so much lower than the Champions League that even being in the Europa League, we have massively fallen down the pecking order. Now, that is bad news for Arsenal. Just to give you an example of some of the groups this season and the type of groups we could have been in. Group H, their 3rd seed this year was Benfica. The 2nd seed was Juventus. The 1st seed was PSG. So we'd be in a group, potentially, Juventus, PSG. The worst one, Bayern Munich and Barcelona were the top 2 seeds. Inter Milan were the 3rd. So we could have been in a group with Bayern Munich and Barcelona. That is not good news. And if ever Edu needed a wake-up call, that needs to be the biggest wake-up call for Arsenal Football Club. Because if we don't get our transfer business right this summer, we will be back in the Europa League before we can even finish singing the Champions League song. We'll be back on Thursday nights at Dundalk, people singing, oh, 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 if we don't handle our business. Pot 3, people. It shows how far we have slipped down this ladder. Champions League for 22 years under Arsene Wenger. 6 years out of it, pot 3, you're going to get potentially 2 monsters in the group. It's going to be very, very difficult. Even Leverkusen, they were pot 3. They had Atletico Madrid and Porto in their group. Napoli had Ajax and Liverpool. Obviously, we can't have an English team in the group stage. But yeah, PSG and Juve, Bayern and Barca, they were 2 of the groups that we could have been in. So we are going to have to handle our business. The draw is going to be absolute scenes when that happens, people. Let me tell you. So, listen, I've said it before and I'll say it again. This football club needs to wake up. Now, some people yesterday were talking in the comments. We had a great conversation yesterday, really good. And a lot of people put in the comments after, why are you talking about the Kroenkes? A lot of people were sort of defending the Kroenkes or saying, why did I have an issue with the Kroenkes still? And what my explanation was, if you look at a football club, and if you look at the successful teams in world football at the moment, the majority of the success starts from the top. It starts from the top. Now, Liverpool's owners, although they've been criticised at times for not spending, they hired a top quality manager in Klopp. They got Michael Edwards to do the transfers, who was unbelievable. They signed Van Dijks and Alissons and players like that. You look at the Manchester City owners and the recruitment and the manager and the stadium and the training ground. The successful teams in world football, it's not a coincidence that their ownership has got everything in place before the success turns up. Now, every now and then, yeah, somebody will win something and then disappear. But I think it starts from the top at Arsenal. Do they have the right recruitment? Do they have the people signing the right players? Are they investing enough money? People said, yeah, the Kroenkes have invested. But 100 million, just as an example, Nottingham Forest spent 125 million in the transfer window in the summer, right? We spent 121 million in the transfer window. 121 million pound nowadays, if you're trying to win the league and catch Manchester City, that's pocket change. Realistically, that's pocket change right now. Unless your team is nearly there, you got to go 200-300 million to catch this Manchester City team. Forest are in a relegation fight. They spent 125 million. So we've got to go bigger. It starts with the ownership. It filters its way down. If he said, I can't blame Kroenkes right now, didn't they give the funds to Edu? But they hired Edu. If I own a company and I hire somebody and I give them money and they don't use it properly, then I've got to look at myself and say, do I have the right people in the right places of business? That's how business runs, bro. Do you know? Arsenal have to get ruthless next season. There are a lot of players that need to move on, 100%. Real Madrid are ruthless, yeah, and that's where everybody aspires to be, so you've got to take note. Forest spent more than Bayern Munich. That's where you got to go. Listen, we spent 121 million. City spent 100 on Grealish. They're the levels now. Arsenal may have to break their transfer record this year in terms of Pepe was 72 million. We might have to spend 80, 90, 100 million on one player if we're going to reach those levels. So we've got to be prepared to do it. Southern Guna said, I said it yesterday, next season will be the most important in my lifetime as an Arsenal supporter. Teams around us are tooling up. We can't waste any more time with projects, phases and PR. I think Arsenal have reached a checkpoint in their time and history of next season. And I know every season is important, but I was speaking to someone yesterday and I said, we will only see the value of this season next season. If we don't build properly this summer, next season we will take a step backwards and we'll be scrambling for top four again like we was last season. If we do what's necessary, we can stay in the mix, challenging for the title, get into the latter stages of the Champions League, winning trophies, even if it's domestic trophies. What happens next season will give you the value of this season. And I agree with you because I think if we get our stuff right this summer, I think we can get back to that next level, get back to that top table and start becoming competent and signing star players. But if we don't, we'll take another 2 steps backwards and we'll be back fighting to get fourth again because United are going to be bought. Liverpool are going to get investment. They're going to spend. Chelsea are going to get poached. They're going to spend. No Europe next year. You know, City are City already. Newcastle, if they're in the Champions League, the checkbook's going to come out. So it's going to be serious. It's only going to get more difficult. So we got to make sure we step up as well. Big up Southern Guna. Shaquille said, I love that super chat. 100% agree. Dre said, wow, well said. Curtis, big up, bro. If we don't build... If we don't build, then this ownership is terrible. Questions need to be asked. Curtis, when I looked first, I thought I was Yuri Tillemans behind. Listen, bro, Yuri Tillemans will never be on my green screen. I don't want him anywhere near Arsenal. Curtis, I don't think we are ready for a title challenge this season. In the end, we weren't ready. And let me put something into context that does give, well, I don't know if it gives Arteta a bit of a defence, but just to put it into context, a lot of people said that last summer we had a really good transfer window. When you look at it, we finished fifth, bottled top four to Tottenham. We signed Gabriel Jesus, Zinchenko. Those two helped the team. In the end, they had a little bit of a wobble. You know, Zinchenko was crying and Jesus was out for 3 months. Started playing like Lacazette. We signed Matt Turner, backup goalkeeper. Didn't really have much of an impact. We signed Fabio Vieira, who's been a flop at this stage. 35 million, he's done nothing. And we signed Marquinhos, who went on loan to Norwich. So in reality, we signed 2 players last summer. Yeah, we might have signed 5, but only 2 had any sort of impact on the team. It wasn't enough. We finished 5th and signed 2 players that influenced this team. We needed 5 players to influence the team, not 2. So this summer, we need like 3 players, 4 players that go into the starting 11 and 2 players, 3 players that can improve the bench. It has to be a much, much better summer than it was last year. People were giving last summer 8, 9 out of 10. I thought it was a 6 out of 10. But hey, we'll see, people. We will see. Nesta said, you consider Rice and Mount an upgrade. I think time would tell if we sign those 2. I've got to be honest. Declan Rice for me is a good player, but I think there's a massive question mark over him. Is he an 80, 90 million pound player? What he does give us, though, is energy and leadership, and he doesn't get injured often. Mount could be an upgrade in that Xhaka role. He's just a player that I've always thought was overrated. So I'm not a particularly big fan of Mason Mount. However, Xhaka has improved in that 8 role. Mount probably would be better than Xhaka in that role. He's younger, he's quicker, he's got a good shot. But he just wouldn't be my selection. But if that's who Arteta wants, then I'll support them and hope that they work. Fitz said pot 3 is all Arteta's fault. Mostly. Some of it I would throw at Wenger as well. I think Emery tried to pick up the pieces, wasn't able to. But Arteta, Wenger, and some of the ownership I would throw it at. But he's definitely a big part of it. He's been at the club 4 seasons. Samuel said, as a player, did you tuck your shirt in, Kieran Tierney style? I didn't, I always had the shirt out, man. Thierry Henry style. The shirt was out. Tierney's in the high shorts and the shirt tucked in. Samuel said, everybody will be wanting Declan Rice and Caicedo. Edu will get us Dewsbury Hall from Leicester. It's probably the reality, bro. It wouldn't surprise me. When do Arsenal fans ever really get the players that they want? We never really get who we want. Gundown said, we must, Big 6 reference, ensure we build on this season's success. 2 midfielders, an alternative striker option, and defensive cover. We must. I felt we must win the league, but we didn't. But now we must build and build properly. Not last season's window. That was a 6 out of 10. We need an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 window, I heard about the response one of your tweets got from. Heard about one of the response one of your tweets got from the club. That's despicable. They said that to any fan, mate. What did they say? No, I was saying people from within the club. They didn't directly acknowledge me like that, but people from within the club were saying this. You can't, when you say certain things, the club will never work with you and PR and all them sorts of things. But it is what it is. No, that wasn't directly the club, Chris. That was some accounts on Twitter. Oh, if you don't like what Arsenal are doing, go and follow another club. All right, mate. Yeah, good one. Go and hide behind your keyboard. You know what I mean? But I told you, I'll say it. I don't mind. I'll be the bad guy. I'll be the fool guy. I'll say it. Phil Jones is a free agent. I can see us signing him in the summer. We better not. I can't believe he's still a footballer, to be honest. Anyway, let's move on. Declan Rice and peas. It's daily Declan, innit? It's daily rice. No carbs before marbs, they say, and yet we're having pure rice. Are Arsenal? Do you know what I want to ask you? Do you actually think Arsenal will sign Declan Rice? Because we're talking about him every day. We're linked with him every day. Do you actually think he becomes an Arsenal player at the end of all this conversation? because it's funny. It seemed to be nailed on that he was going to Chelsea. I'm feeling really too much rice, bro. Do you think we'll actually get him? Now, story today. Arsenal have provisionally agreed a deal with both West Ham and Declan Rice months ago. The upfront fee was less than it was currently being quoted, while the wages are way below what is being quoted as well. Talks have been ongoing for months. Now, the story today, and again, I don't want to get too caught up in it, but they're saying he will cost around 80 million with a wage of around 200,000 a week, despite those stories last week saying 100, 120 million. Now, what you've got to understand is, if you want 10 grand for your car, the best thing to do is to put it up for sale at 12 grand. The guy will come and negotiate, you get him down to 10 and a half, 11, and you've got more. West Ham are not stupid. They want £120 million for Declan Rice because they're going to use Bellingham as a reference, even though I don't think he's a patch on him, and blah, blah, blah. But they know realistically, year left, he's not going to sign the contract. I don't know if anybody heard David Moyes' interview at the weekend. He was saying there was a chance Declan Rice could leave in the summer. West Ham are not in a position to turn down £80 million for a guy with a year left that came through their youth system. They will have to sell him. What Arsenal are hoping is that it doesn't become an auction. Will Man City go for Rice? I don't think so. Maybe Man United, but he plays sort of the Casemiro role. I don't know if they would go for him. I think Chelsea would look at him, but they have offered Kante a new deal, plays a similar role. Maybe Liverpool. I don't know. They could, but Fabinho is starting to turn his form around. So I think what Arsenal are hoping is that this is a one-horse race, and that they get him without a lot of competition for him. Yesterday's tax is not today's tax, curtly said Eros. This deal's got English tax written all over it. Now, there is a story today that we'll talk about after this as well. But there's a story today saying that Arsenal want Declan Rice and Caicedo. However, Ornstein has come out with some quotes that we're going to talk about in a few minutes' time, saying that he kind of thinks it's one or the other rather than both, which I've said for a long time. I've got no doubt that Arsenal won't sign, but I don't think Arsenal will sign both of them. If Rice is going to cost you 80 million and Caicedo is going to cost you 80 million, I just don't see how they spend 160 million on two midfielders. I just don't see it. I think it will be one or the other. As I said, for me, I would take Caicedo ahead of Rice, but I think they're going to go for Rice. And yeah, this report saying that it's been verbally agreed, which doesn't mean much. Let's be honest. When did it ever mean much about verbal agreements? You know, Adam Mudryk verbally agreed to join Arsenal, and we all know how that one ended up. So yeah, doesn't mean much, but according to reports, verbal agreement in place for Declan Rice to join Arsenal. A 200 million summer is coming. I hope so. I think City will be interested. They could offer West Ham Phillips. That's a great point. I think you get Caicedo personally. Highbury's local badger. We won't get both Rice or Caicedo. You can clip it. I agree with you. I don't think we'll get both. I prefer rice and peas over plain white rice, brother. I'm telling you. Caicedo over Rice. Arsenal Football Club are the PR champions of the world when it comes to increasing ticket prices and releasing new kits. I mean, I don't know if you heard, people, but Arsenal's new home kit comes out next Sunday. Arsenal will play in their home kit last game of the season at home against Wolves, where the £28,000 tickets were being sold because people thought we'd be obviously having a game to win the league. So, yeah, it's the PR season ticket emails have been sent the last few days. Renew now, 4% increase due to Champions League, blah, 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 and all of that business. Jake said Curtis Rice is better than Caicedo. As I said, as I always say, football is opinions. I think his mobility, I think he's better on the ball. I think his ceiling is higher. But, like I said, it's all opinions. FF said, Curtis off topic. What are your thoughts on Eze? Would you take him at Arsenal? Not that we need him, but I think his quality. I like Eze. I actually like Eze more than Elise. Most people love Elise at Palace. I've always liked Eze more. I think he's a little bit more mature on the ball. But a good player. I wouldn't be surprised if clubs are looking for him in the summer. And Elise, to be honest. We're not signing either. We'll likely get Tielemans and Zubomendi and maybe Milinkovic-Savic. Would you take Lavia? I'd take him as a squad player, not as a starting lineup player. I do think he's a good player, Lavia, and you'd get him cheaper. Elise has an attitude problem. Well, I haven't heard, but Eze to Spurs, I hope not. Eze would be good, and Zaha. Curtis likes Zaha more than Eze. Nimbo, you said it, not me, my friend. You said it, not me. A bit of breaking news just come out. A few of you have been saying it in the comments. And that is that following Balogun has decided to represent the United States men's national team. He will switch his allegiance to the USA. Balogun took his time, but the decision has been made. No, England. He will represent the United States of America. It's believed he was convinced by the possibility of representing the United States in America for the World Cup. He was very disappointed when he wasn't called up for England, despite the fact at the time he was the top goal scorer in the French league at that time, along with Kylian Mbappe. I don't think he ever, from what we've read, he wasn't considering playing for Nigeria because Osimhen obviously has got that striker position on lockdown. And he's only in his mid-20s. So Balogun will play for the United States, which I think is a great decision. Unfortunately, English football has a lot of politics. There isn't a striker in this country, no matter how good you are, you're not getting in this England team until Harry Kane calls it a day. Right? He's the golden boy of English football. You're not getting in that team until he stops. Harry Kane is 29. His game's not built around pace. He'll play for England till he's 33, 34 at least. So you're waiting another 4 years before you get any kind of call-up. So Balogun, go and play for America, play in the World Cup. Arsenal have got a very big decision to make on this guy this summer. It's going to be very interesting. I've said it before and I'll say it again. And I don't have any sources when it comes to this deal. I think Balogun will leave Arsenal this summer. I'm going to be honest. Just from little whispers and some of the reports we've seen, I think Balogun's going to leave, which I think is a real shame considering the amount of potential that he's got. He's going to score 20-plus league goals this year in the French league. He's going to be probably America's #1 striker. He's 21 years of age. It's... Really, you should be keeping him and selling Eddie Nketiah. I think his potential is far higher. And he's younger. Eddie Nketiah's 24 this summer. He's nearly mid-20s. He still hasn't really shown us anything. Balogun's 21. He's in the French league doing bits. So if we keep Eddie and sell Balogun, I'll be disappointed. I think that would be a mistake. If you sold both and went and bought somebody who's maybe better than both of them, I would have some understanding of it. But yeah, we'll have to see. A lot of people saying, that the French league, it's very hard to judge how good he is. For me, I would bring him back pre-season and have a look at him. I would take him on tour, have a look at him in training. Let's see if he's at that level or he's just benefiting from the fact that the French league is very weak defensively. Lacazette's got 20 goals there. He got 4 in the Premier League. So there is some French league tax, but to just sort of sell him without looking at him, you've got to think a 21-year-old who's going to be an international footballer, who's got nearly 20 goals in the French league. If he was French and you were signing him from Marseille or something like that, you'd probably pay 60, 70 million for him because the striker market is terrible when you look around world football. A lot of the best strikers are old now. Benzema, Kane and all them guys, Lewandowski, they're all in their 30s. So, listen, if we sell Balogun, we should be getting 50 million plus. I think Arsenal will probably get 30 to 40 for him. So, we'll have to see. Big up Steve Hester. Late to the party, better late than never. Latte said it's a Gnabry part 2. Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. He's being linked with Leipzig. He'll probably go to Leipzig, bang goals in there, go and end up at Bayern Munich or something. And we'll be saying, oh, no, we should have given him a chance. Rowan said that's why I criticise Arteta. He never trusts players outside of a certain group. He likes very much his group, don't he? And the players that he believes he can trust a little bit more. So good luck to Balogun as he plays for the United States. Couple more transfer stories, people. This one is Gary Jacob. This was the same article where he announced, for anybody that's just tuned in, I just stated earlier that Arsenal are likely to be in pot 3 for next season's Champions League, which is bad news, as we could potentially have Barcelona and Bayern Munich in the same group if we were very unlucky. We were expected to be in pot 2, but due to 6 years out of the Champions League, we're heading for pot 3. You know, will we get through a group? Or will we end up back in the Europa League? Gunnar said, hey Curtis, would you take Sadio Mane? I wouldn't. I've got to be honest, I've always liked Mane. I think he's a top player. He struggled this year in Germany. Liverpool let him go for a reason. I don't think he's the player that he used to be. He's still good enough to play for us, but you look at the wages and the age, I would rather get somebody else. I'd rather sign Gnabry if we were getting a Bayern Munich winger. No striker is ever prolific with Arteta, said CS. Listen, we know that Arteta's blueprint is built off what Pep Guardiola was doing when he was there. And Pep went away from playing with an out-and-out striker. You know, when Aguero went, he played with no striker. Arteta was there at that time to witness that. So I think Arteta, his system is built on the wingers. He wants the wingers to score big numbers, which is what Pep did with Sterling, with Sané, with Mahrez. His goals come from the wingers. Now it's changed. He got Haaland, and that all changed, obviously, but there aren't many Haalands out there. So I think that Arteta wants his striker to be a link-up player rather than a prolific goal scorer, which is why I don't think he was ever that keen on Aubameyang. Because even though Aubameyang was a great goal scorer, he was a limited footballer in terms of link-up. I think he loves Jesus and that link-up, but a striker like that will get you 10 to 15 goals, where sometimes you need a striker that you can get to 20, 25 league goals. So I think that's what Arteta is. I think his blueprint is off what Pep was doing pre-Haaland, you know. Curtis, you rather pot 3 in the Champions League or the frying pan in the Europa? Like I said, I might have Stockholm syndrome, you know. At least in the Europa League, I believed we could win it. Pot 3 in the Champions League, Jesus, you know, we need to get our act together and sign some top players. That's for sure. Listen, I'd rather be in the Champions League. It's glamorous, big music, big money. We need to sign big players to go along with it. Chris said, as a striker, is it hard to be prolific when you're required to get up and down the pitch? 100%. 100%. I was quite fortunate. Most of the teams, they wanted the striker to be in the penalty area. Football's changed now. I always say that Firmino changed a lot of in football in this country by playing in that false 9 role, and with Liverpool's success with the wingers of Mane and Salah. Now everybody wants the strikers to drop in, to link up, to help the midfield. If we had a stronger midfield, I wonder if Jesus would drop back so much and help us, you know, maybe not. FF95 said, had a chat with someone at the gym earlier. He mentioned Pepe coming back. Imagine if we get Pepe cooking. I don't see how much we're going to sell him for. I don't think Pepe will kick a ball for Arsenal again. I don't think Arteta and him connect. I don't think we'll get any money for him. His wages are big, so we'll probably pay him to go. He'll probably go for nothing. Benzema does it, but still scores. He drops in, but I wouldn't say he does as much work as Jesus. You don't have to when you got Camavinga and Modric and Toni Kroos and Valverde and players like that. Gary Jacob, anyway, with this story, talking about offloading players, he does say in this article that Arsenal are hoping to raise £100 million in player sales. Granit Xhaka could be among the biggest names to depart, with Arsenal also likely to try and offload Emile Smith-Rowe, Folarin Balogun, Rob Holding, Albert Sambi-Lokonga, Nuno Tavares and Cedric Suarez, while Kieran Tierney is expected to move to Newcastle. This is a crazy story in a sense, because most of these names I expect, Sambi, Holding, Nuno, Cedric, that's a non-starter. Are Arsenal going to sell ESR? Because something is not right with him. You got to understand, this is a player. We turned down nearly 40 million from Villa. We give him a new contract. We give him number 10. Yes, he's been injury prone, and he's been injured. Are you fit, bruv? Obviously, he's not. But this guy's been on the bench for 2 months. So clearly something's wrong, because you don't put him on the bench if he's not fit. the manager is saying things about ESR in the press conference that he was sort of saying about players like Pepe. And I was thinking, wow, like ESR, that's your boy. You gave him a contract. You gave him number 10. I agree. I think, without knowing, I think that something is not right between ESR and Arteta, because he seemed to love ESR. All of a sudden, this guy can't get off the bench. He don't get a start. He's talking about the way he trains, the way he looks after himself. We know the stories from before. There were rumours that ESR eats a lot of junk food, eats a lot of chocolate. Maybe he was putting on a little bit of weight. But then there was a story that he'd got a chef to do all of his cooking and stuff, and he was living better. But Arteta's talking about got to train better, got to live better, blah, blah, blah. Are the club looking at ESR and thinking, you know what, he's injury prone, he's not conducting himself properly, let's cash in on him? I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't like to sell ESR. I would like to give him one more season because I do think he's a good player. He's in the England squad. But clearly something is not right. And Arteta doesn't seem to have a lot of patience when you're not, respecting what he wants to happen. He doesn't seem to care who you are. Ozil, Aubameyang, Guendouzi, we've seen it. He will get rid of you. If you're acting like Team Fofty, you'll be kicked out of there. That swag crew, you can't survive in that crew. Dre said ESR can't speak Portuguese or Espanol. Exactly, the Croydon De Bruyne, as they called him. He enjoyed his Easter eggs too much by the sound of it. But listen, Tierney, ESR, Balogun, those are the three players that I'd be saying I would try and hang on to. But how much would you get if Villa came back in for ESR? How much would you get for Balogun? How much are they going to get for Kieran Tierney? It's interesting that El Nene's escaped that list as well. ESR is Aston Villa bench level. If we get rid of ESR, we keep Fabio Vieira, I guess. Well, maybe that's why we're being linked with the likes of Javi Simmons in that attacking midfield role. If you could buy him for 35, 40 million and you get 40 for ESR, 35 from Villa, it's a straight swap. But they're going to give Vieira more time, no matter what you think of him. They've only had him for a year. He didn't have a pre-season, new country. They're going to give him 2 or 3 years before they make that one. But Granit Xhaka, this Granit Xhaka story... South London's finest said, Khalid has a chef. It means nothing. Yeah, to be fair, it's all right having a chef. It's about what you're telling the chef to cook. So, yeah, maybe he's got the chef, but maybe he's told him, cook me some Nando's and some chocolate cake for dessert, So, it don't matter that ESR's got a chef. Is he telling him to cook the right things? And I said, yeah, bro, get me some chicken wings, some rice, some Kool-Aid, and some chocolate cake with some ice cream on the side. He said, but... Emil, I'm meant to be here giving you healthy meals. But I said, listen, I pay your wages. Go cook me some chocolate cake. So, yeah, he's struggling right now. He could be on his way. And don't forget, we got 11 players out on loan, people. Marquinhos, Pepe, Balogun, Pablo Mari, Renarson, Cedric, Austin Trusty, Nuno Tavares, Sambi Lokonga, Charlie Patino. We got a bag of players out on loan, people, that need to be sold. Obviously, we know Pablo Mari's already, the clause in his contract has been triggered. He will leave. Ainsley's been released and Patino's going to go. So that's at least 3 of them. Nimbo said, don't make me hungry. Ah, dear me. Give me some chocolate cake and ice cream and another one. DJ Khaled. He wants another one, people. Marquinhos is the answer, said Dre. If he's the answer, I don't know what the question is. Young Gunner said, next season we need an aggressive goal scorer. Tony or Mitrovic. Thoughts on Jonathan David. Didn't have the best World Cup. Bring Gnabry back. I tell you the problem with Ivan Toney. And I've been saying it for ages. The best thing that should have happened for Ivan Toney was get that case done this season. Get the ban finished, start next season afresh. The problem you've got now, Ivan Toney's hearing's not going to be until the end of the season. Now, if he gets a 3-month ban, a 6-month ban, an 8-month ban, Arsenal are all about PR. They are not going to sign a player for 50, 60 million pound that is getting a ban. And if it's a significant ban, you've got no chance. So I think that ban will stop Arsenal going for Ivan Toney, which is a real shame. Yeah, we're doing a keep, sell or loan stream, 100%. we might do it this week. I'll get it planned. I'll let you know tomorrow. It makes sense to just get it done. And it'll be great interaction. And maybe I'll get a guest on for that and we'll have some discussion. I'll try and get a few guests on for that. He's going to get a decent ban. You know, Trippier got 12 weeks. 10 weeks, sorry, for 12 betting offences. Ivan Toney's admitted 11, but I think he'll get more because there's over 100 charges. Yeah, we'll definitely do the keep, loan, sell. These names, though, quickly before we move on. Would you sell all of them? Xhaka, for me, I actually don't mind selling him. Smith Rowe, I think I would try and give Smith Rowe another season before I gave up on him. Because he's English, he's young, I still think there's talent there. Balogun, I would give him pre-season at least before we ditched him. Holding, gone. Sambi, gone. Nuno, Cedric, gone. Tierney, I would try my best to keep him. I would definitely try and keep Tierney because you've got to replace him. And I don't trust Zinchenko in the Champions League. I think you need another left-back. But if Tierney wants to go, then get rid of him. It's as simple as that. If he's desperate to leave... The problem you've got with Kieran Tierney straight away is that Newcastle are going to go, we'll match your wages or we'll give you more and we'll play you at left back and probably move Dan Burn into central defence. Newcastle is also probably an hour and a half from Glasgow. It's just over the border, Scotland, England. So he moves back closer to home. He gets the same wages or more and he plays every week and they're probably going to be in the Champions League. So the Champions League football, they can offer him, so can we. I think Kieran Tierney will want to leave, unfortunately, because he's going to look at Zinchenko and think, I'm not playing ahead of him. So I think Tierney will leave as well, which is a shame, but we'll have to replace him. Young Gunner, by the way, I didn't even answer your question. Jonathan David's a striker I've never been fully convinced by. And this is what I mean. David's got like 20 goals in the French league. Balogun's got 20 goals and he's younger. So why sign Jonathan David when you got Balogun? I think they're similar. Maybe he's a little bit better than Balogun. Xhaka goes 100%. Amo said Tierney, Elneny, ESR, Pepe, Cedric, Xhaka, Partey, Saliba if he doesn't sign. Wow, that is interesting. I mean, listen, as crazy as that is what you're saying, if Saliba doesn't sign the new contract, you got to sell him. And that would be an absolute disaster. My worry with Saliba has always been PSG. PSG want a centre-back. Ramos is old. They tried to sell Kimpembe. Obviously, Marquinhos is quality. Could Saliba be lured by PSG? I don't know. That's the worry. Thomas Partey, for me, he's been getting a lot of criticism the last few weeks. And I totally agree with it. He's stunk out the place the last few weeks. But I think you've got to judge him as you judge everyone else in this team. I actually think Partey's had his best season for Arsenal. He was fantastic until about March, the end of March. Then he just, I don't know what happened to him. Is it because he was fasting? I don't know, but he's been awful. Led to him being dropped. He's 29, he's 30 this summer. 200 grand a week. You're not getting significant funds if you sell him. If you sold Thomas Partey, we paid 45 million for him, 3 years ago? He's probably worth 30 million now, 25 million. I wouldn't sell Thomas Partey for 25 million because you're not replacing him for 25 million. I would keep him. I don't think there's any reason to sell him. I think you have the attitude that he can be on the bench if necessary. That's how I think you treat him. I don't think you sell him. I think you get rid of the players below him, your Elneny's, your Xhakas, your Lokongas, and you have him as, okay, you're going to play, but this time you're going to be benched. What we've done, we've built a whole midfield around him and said, you are our midfield. And we know that he will get injured, that he will let you down at times, and then we're looking at him going, he's not good enough. I wouldn't sell Partey. I would keep him. I think until the end of March, no Arsenal fan would be saying sell him. He has had a dip in form, but Jesus had a dip. You know, Saka's had a dip in form. Most of our team have had a dip. So I wouldn't sell him. But I would look at him more as a squad player, somebody that can be rotated than a player that, you know, our midfield is built around him. I think that is the mistake. And I think that's why they want Declan Rice. because Rice can play in that 6 role. He hardly misses any games. He's strong. He's a leader. He can tackle. He's a bit more mobile. That's why I think they're looking at Declan Rice. El Neni must go, but he won't. He'll get a new deal. People have to remember, El Neni was a teammate of Arteta. That's how long ago he was playing for Arsenal. They are actually probably friends. You know, they've probably been on holiday together and stuff. So, yeah, El Neni will get a new deal. He'll get a new deal. Arteta loves him. Saliba would definitely stay. I mean, we've seen stranger things. Only takes PSG to turn up and go, listen, big contract, come back to France, play for the biggest team. Mbappe's in the team. Probably helps him get in the French team quicker if he plays for PSG. I think we're treading on dangerous ground with Saliba. I really do. Pat said, big up Big C, finally catching you live. My schedule's all messed up. We bottled it, bro. Another wasted season. I mean, listen, we've spoke about it in great detail, man. But yeah, unfortunately, it does feel like that, to be honest. PSG are going to lose Neymar, Mbappe, and Messi soon. Why would he go? They're not going to lose all 3 in one window. Their fans would burn down the stadium. Maybe 1 or 2 of them will go. We need to take Hakimi off PSG's hands. I mean, he's in some trouble off the pitch as well, potentially, allegedly. So, you know, and I don't think they would sell him as well. He's a top quality player. Sleepy Forest said, I want Trent for inverted right back. Can use Tierney sometimes too then. 120 million. Trent in that inverted role looks outstanding. You see his goal last night against Leicester. Chris said, I would sit him down and say, we respect your views and religion you follow, but during this season you must keep to a diet. That doesn't... Yeah, but he's a religious man. He's not going to ignore his religion for the sake of not fasting. If we had a proper squad, we could have looked at Partey and said, right, he's fasting. He's clearly struggling a little bit at the moment. Declan Rice, Caicedo, they're going to play, sit down on the bench, relax. It's not a problem. The man's fasting, he's struggling. We're playing him every week. And he's all over the place. So, I think it's an Arsenal issue. I see you tried to avoid my question just like Ed. Hey, apologies, young gun. I actually read it out and then forgot to answer it. Let me just read out some of this David Ornstein article that he did on Sky this morning. The mouthpiece of the football club, Ornstein, who's now doing the war chest stories. He's took over from man like John Cross. He said, Arsenal's interest in Declan Rice is well documented and they will have competition for him. They looked at it in January, similarly with Caicedo, though they went further with that. I'm not sure they'll be able to do both financially, but clearly the interest is there. They want a creative midfielder as well. That's why the likes of Mason Mount have come onto their radar. At the back, they'll have to look to do something. Their defensive record at home is the worst it's been since 1984. 1984, you know, worst home defensive record. That means they're going to need some reinforcements at centre-back and at right-back. And let's see what happens with man like Kieran Tierney, lad. Listen, don't take everything that he says as gospel. He said what they could do to raise through departures, perhaps 100 million. Clearly, there's an opportunity to trade, and a lot of eyes will be on Edu in what he's able to do. Arsenal are going to be tested, and the evidence so far is they've done pretty well. It's going to be a huge sum up. It looks like they're trying to move quickly to get stuff done sooner rather than later. I mean, first of all, he seems to be saying one or the other with Rice or Caicedo, which I think is the reality. It's funny, you know. I'm going to really have to eat some humble pie if we go and sign Declan Rice and Mason Mount. Because I have publicly said for a long time that they're both overrated, overhyped English players. And if we go and spend 140, 50 million on buying them two, I'm going to have to try and get my way out of that somehow. And pretend that... Listen, Declan Rice, I think there's something there with him. Do you know what it is? Xhaka's looked pretty good in the attacking midfield role. I actually think Mason Mount would do better in that role than Xhaka because he is a good goal scorer. He has got movement. He can shoot. I just don't like him. I don't rate him. I think he's very inconsistent, plays well, flatters to deceive in a lot of big games. I'm just not sure about Mason Mount. And 60 million, I just don't know. I don't know. And Yeah, Rice and Mount would not excite me that much. Southlanders finally said right back. We definitely need a right back. I think Dre said it in January in one of the member streams that we needed a right back. And I think you're spot on. You look at Tomiyasu, injury prone. You look at Ben White, although he has had a good season. I think when them real top wingers come up against him, it's a problem. It's a problem for him. You look at Rashford, dealt with him. You look at Matoma, dealt with him. You know, he's had a few games where you've looked at him and thought, oh, you do look a bit like a centre-back at right-back. Justin said, I've been preaching, Curtis, you don't highlight my pure factual statements regarding how we've bottled it. Listen, I've been reiterating that message myself. This window has to be the final one for Mikel if he doesn't bring trophies. Enough is enough. I think it's crunch time for him this season, Mikel. Whether you're a big fan of him or not, you're going into your 5th season at the football club next year. Your 4th full season as manager. There's no excuse anymore. War chest, it's more like a kitty. I'm telling you, it's a piggy bank. How about Walker Peters from Southampton? Nah, ex-Tottenham, not great. He's all right. I wouldn't want him. I'd rather get Ward-Prowse than Mount, says Iffy. Liberty said, going for Mount when you can get Maddison. And Maddison would be cheaper than Mount because they're going to get relegated. You're probably getting for 30, maybe 40 million. Any quick and pacey wingers, he can't deal with it. I think what you've seen with Ben White is that he's a centre-back playing at right-back. He's done a good job there. He's had a good season, but long-term, he's not the answer there. Why do you think Ben White consistently gets taken off the pitch? Because the energy levels that you need to play at centre-back are much lower than the level to play at right-back. Right backs and left backs now are like wingers. You know, you look how far forward Trent and Reece James and Cancelo and these guys get. You know, and how many assists they get. Robertson at Liverpool. Ben White doesn't have that engine, and that's why we need a natural fullback. Rowan said Tomiyasu, Zinchenko, Partey, and Saliba are all injury prone. I mean Saliba. It's hard for me to tell because I don't actually know, was he injured much when he was playing in France, but it's a shame that he's got injured this season. But definitely Tomiyasu and Partey are injury prone. And it looks like Zinchenko could be as well. So yeah, I definitely think we need to sign a defender and a right back and a centre back. You know, because we've seen that with Gabriel and Saliba, the cover isn't good enough. Arteta likes Rice, but he is overpriced. I agree. Who is your first choice right back this summer? Right back is difficult because the ones listen, mine would be Cancelo. I know some people say defensively he's not great, but I think he's good enough defensively, and I think he's incredible going forward. And I think with Saka cutting inside onto his right foot, with Cancelo on the overlap on his right foot, I think we'd be unbelievable going forward. Listen, there are younger ones as well that you could go for. But I'd love to see Cancelo. It's just whether Pep would sell him to Arsenal. You know, he knows now that we are something of a challenger. Would he allow us to take him off us? To take him off them, should I say? Frimpong, very highly rated. Jeremy Frimpong. Sell Jesus if he isn't scoring consistently. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't think he was brought in to score consistently. That's the problem. Let's see. Breaking. Cristiano Ronaldo was keen to sign for Arsenal in January, according to Piers Morgan. Pep would sell him to us and buy a world-class replacement for 12 million. Patrick said, Big C, are we still talking about Mikel? When are we going to bring the heat on KSE as a fan base because we let these guys off the hook? I spoke about them in great detail yesterday. I put out a tweet that caused a lot of heat. And a lot of people are in support of them, you know, and that's where we're at. We need strength in numbers. I said, Big C, this coming transfer is definitely a test for Arteta and Edu, but I feel it's more on Arteta since the book stops with them. Let's get one thing clear. If I'm Mikel Arteta, despite the shortcomings of this season and not winning a trophy, Edu and Arteta should be excited about this summer. They shouldn't be looking at it and going, oh no, we're under so much pressure. If I'm Arteta and I'm Edu, I'm saying, hang on a minute. these players that last season were ignoring phone calls, they're now answering. They're now texting me saying, what are you up to? Do you know what I mean? They're now dropping me a message. Because we're in the Champions League. We're playing good football. The wage bill will go up. We're a glamorous outfit now to these teams, to these players. So they shouldn't be looking at this transfer window and thinking we're under pressure. The Kroenke should give them more money to spend because we've made more money. The sponsorship deals will go up. The TV money will go up from BT because Champions League clubs get more than Europa League clubs. Bigger players will want to join us. This should be the most exciting transfer window of recent times for Arsenal fans, for Arsenal players, and for the Arsenal management. So, yeah, just sliding in the DM with a wink. They don't even need to say anything now. You know what I'm saying? They were ignoring 30 phone calls from us before, so they got to do the business. And this is why I said they've got no excuse this year. They've got no excuse. We'll be talking about transfers a lot over the next couple months. But we'll see. We will see. Denver Nuggets doing brilliant in the playoffs against the Lakers. Flying. LA Rams won the Super Bowl. Got players on huge wages. I believe, is it, what are they called? Colorado Avalanche, is it? I believe. One of his other sports teams done really well. Did they win the Stanley Cup? I could be totally wrong here. But the Kroenke's clubs are thriving in America. Right? SoFi Stadium. All this stuff, absolutely flying. Most expensive stadium in the world. Man's building a train track in LA. That's how good he's doing. He even wants to improve the transport to get you to his most expensive stadium in the world. All we got was a paint job outside the stadium. Oh, the Rapids, okay. Won the Stanley Cup. There you go. So, and somebody said this to me yesterday. Oh, yeah, but his other teams are... I said, well, what's that got to do with Arsenal? At the moment, and I've said it before and I say it again, we feel like the collateral in the Kroenke's food chain. We are the collateral. So when he goes to the bank and he says, right, I want to build SoFi Stadium in LA. I want to move the Rams to LA. And I want to build the most expensive stadium in the world. And they go, okay, well, you're going to need a few billion to borrow. And he go, well, don't worry. I own this soccer team in England called Arsenal. So if anything goes wrong with this stadium, you can take that soccer club over there in England. I've never been to watch them play, but Josh says they're a good little team. I don't know what color the kid is, but you know. And that's all it is. Sorry, my American accent. I ended up in Birmingham by the time. I started in New York. I ended up in Norwich by the time that finished. Yeah, it got a bit weaker as it was. It's been a long week, people. I'm still not over. I'm still not over Kivy or ducking down. Sorry, forgive me. But we're collateral damage, people. We're collateral damage. If anything goes wrong, Arsenal will disappear to the bank and cover the debt. You know, it's like when you rent a house and you get someone to be the guarantor. If I mash up the rent, your house and car's going, you know. I caused the problem, but your house and car's disappearing. So, yeah, I need you to sign this paperwork to say that if I ever end up bankrupt, they take Arsenal, they don't take LA Rams and Denver Nuggets, you know. So we're collateral damage, people. You can't knock a trial. I started somewhere in America. I ended up somewhere in Solihull. So it wasn't great, but... No, people hammering me in the comment. Hey, I tried, people. I tried. Anyway, let's round up. Gunnarola says, where's the Partey fasting rumour coming from? Simply lacks fitness for a whole season. Need quality upgrade so he won't play more than 20 to 25. I thought he was fasting, right? Wasn't he fasting? I thought that was certified facts, but he is injury prone anyway. Bab said we lack a consistent and certified striker, 100%. The last one was Oba. By the way, people, I don't know if you know this, but the funniest story yesterday. Big up Daniel who said, I'm in Solihull. Oh no, Avalanche are the hockey team apparently. Rapids are the football club. But Aubameyang won La Liga yesterday, people. And some of you are thinking, what? What do you mean he won? He won La Liga yesterday. Believe it or not, Aubameyang played 8 minutes at the start of the season for Barcelona before joining Chelsea. And it enabled him to get a winner's medal for Barcelona winning the league. So Oba is officially a La Liga champion for 8 minutes of football, people. 8 minutes, no joke. Oba won La Liga. He won the title before Arsenal. So, look, Aubameyang, Piqué and Memphis Depay have all been given a winning shirt and winning medal despite leaving the club. Aubameyang only played 8 minutes in one appearance off the bench before joining Chelsea. He is an official La Liga champion. You couldn't write that, could you? You could not write that. While Arteta throws away our title, Aubameyang's being sent a medal and a title-winning jersey, despite the fact he only played 8 minutes. I'll show you the picture quickly. I've got one more story after this and then we're out of it. Swag, people. He's officially a champion. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is listed on Barcelona's official T-shirt celebrating their La Liga title. Aubameyang is a La Liga champion. He only played 8 minutes, people. Look at that smile on his face, Oba. Let me get you off the screen. We got enough problems going on. He's won the title, people. He's a champion. Have that, Michele. Listen, if I speak, I'm suspended at least 6 months. Final story before we go, and a few of you mentioned it, but yeah, it was announced. Gary Jacob again. Takahiro Tomiyasu could be out until September after knee surgery. He will also participate in the Asian Cup in January next year. I mean, if ever you needed evidence that Arsenal need a right back, that is it. Not only is he going to miss games in January because he's going to the Asia Cup, but he's out until potentially the end of September. We have to sign a right back. And it's sad news, been out for a while. It was obviously a bad injury. Ricky said, Curtis, how many world-class players were Spurs able to sign with 6 or 7 years of Champions League? Any smart player would wait 1 more year to see if Arsenal can sustain it. You're right in that sense, but we're Arsenal, they're Tottenham. Any comparison goes out the window when you compare them. They're real Spursy bottle jobs. You know, we did bottle it. We're just like a small bottle of water that you get, you know, a nice business meeting. They're like a 2-litre bottle of water, you know, big bottle jobs. But yeah, we need a right back, that is for sure. People, thank you very much for tuning in. He's made of bread, said South London's fine. Just when you thought the week was going crazy enough, Aubameyang has won a title in La Liga for Barcelona, playing 8 minutes of football. It's crazy, isn't it? Thank you very much for tuning in. Like the video. Get us to 62k. If we hit 62k, we needed 35 subscribers. Let me know. Let me see. Did you get us over the finish line, people? Let me check. We need 15 more. We need 15 more. We'll get there. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe on the way out. Like the video. I'll be back tomorrow. Southern Gooner comes in with a late super chat. Something to think about. Vincent Kompany played under Pep and Arteta. Left and coach Anderlecht goes to Burnley. Wins a league title before Arteta. Maybe he learnt more from Pep than Arteta did. TMV said, I question Arteta's ability to nurture the mentality of this young team. If Arsenal are in another title race next season, will he pull us through? We'll see. Let's hope. Let's hope. That's all we can do is hope. Thank you very much for tuning in, people. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I will see you all. I'll be back again 2 p.m. tomorrow, people. Bless.